So you're thinking about making a move to the Boise, Idaho area, but you're starting to narrow in on your options and you're not sure exactly which city you want to set up roots in. Well, today I'm going to compare two of our most popular cities here in the Valley. We're going to look at them head to head, figure out which of these cities might match you and your needs a little bit better than the other. I'm talking about Boise, and then I'm talking about our biggest suburb, Meridian. We're going to talk about the overall vibe. We're going to talk about housing. We're going to talk about cost of living, recreation, entertainment, all of the stuff. If this is something of interest, go ahead and stay tuned because we're going to hop into it right now. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Chase Dolan, and this is Living in Boise, where I show you what it's like to live, work, and play here in the Boise and Greater Treasure Valley area. If this is your first time to the channel, go ahead, hit that subscribe button down below. That way you are the first person to know everything that there is to know about Boise and the surrounding area. I'm a local agent up here in the area, and I help people just like you every single day relocate their family to the great Boise area. So whether you're moving in 9 days or 9 months, I would absolutely love to help you have the smoothest move possible to Boise. Call, text, email, whatever works best for you. You can even schedule a Zoom directly on my calendar. All of that information is down below. I would love to chat and figure out how I might be able to help. But let's go ahead and get started with the main topic of today's conversation. We're going to compare Boise with Meridian. When we're talking about the general vibe and feel of these two cities, there's going to be a lot of similarities, but there's going to be some key differences that I think will kind of draw certain people to one or the other. These are two of the largest cities in our valley, so if you're looking for more of that small town Idaho, you want that rural feel, both Boise and Meridian might not be the best place for you. Boise is the capital city of Idaho. With just over 240,000 people, it is our big kind of urban big city feel. Now, depending on where you're coming from, Boise's going to feel extremely small, but it is the hub of our valley, so it's going to be probably the fastest paced city here in the Treasure Valley. Meridian, on the other hand, even though it is the next biggest city, only has a population of 120,000 people, so it's about half the size of Boise. This population has spiked dramatically over the last decade, 15 years, because Meridian has grown at a really exponential level. I talk about it a lot because it is where it's located in our Treasure Valley. It's kind of the nexus. It's in the center of everything. So there is kind of a fast-paced nature to certain parts of Meridian. Eagle Road kind of cutting through is one of the biggest roads that we have. And then when we're talking about commuting, pretty much everybody's going to have to go through Meridian if you're going from the outskirts into Boise for your job. Both of these cities have a ton to offer when we're talking about the different restaurants, the different interests that you could go and do, kind of that things to do. Boise and Meridian are going to have the most offerings of any city here in our valley. But at the end of the day, Boise's going to have a little bit of an edge here. If you're looking for that city where you're close to things to do, you always like to hit up the new event or festival. You want options for farmers markets. You want even more restaurants, shopping, everything like that. Boise has something for almost everyone. They have a vast array, and it's just continually growing and getting more diverse of restaurants, bars, coffee shops, all of that downtown. This is also where a lot of our concerts happen. This is where our sports team, Boise State Broncos, the Idaho Steelheads, Boise Hawks, all of those play in Boise itself. And then this is where a lot of our festivals are located, being our big town. When we're talking about Tree Fort Music Festival, we're talking about the different Oktoberfest, things at Christmas, we're gonna have Pride. All of the different festivals and things to do are gonna be located in Boise because that's just where the most people are. But even though this gives Boise a little bit of a slight edge in this arena, something to remember as one of the biggest pros of our valley is if you're living in Meridian and all of this interests you, but you don't really care about being 2 minutes away from it at all times, you can get from pretty much anywhere in Meridian to downtown Boise within 20 to 30 minutes. So even if you choose Meridian, you're not completely crossing all of these different opportunities off your list. One more thing that Boise has in its city limits that Meridian just doesn't have is the Boise River actually goes directly through most of Boise and downtown. This means if you want to go floating, you want to go kayaking, maybe you want to go out and do fly fishing, whatever it is, you can do that in the city that you live in if you choose Boise. But again, in Meridian, especially on the northern edge where Meridian and Eagle meet, they pretty much meet at the river. So you're going to have good access to there. But again, Boise's all about proximity, so you are going to be close to everything that you want. Now, as far as traffic and the overall commute and kind of the hustle and bustle feel, Boise and Meridian are going to have some similarities, but Boise's going to be more busy than Meridian on the whole. When we're talking about traffic in our valley, the biggest areas that get the most congested are going to be Eagle Road, which comes right down through Meridian, kind of where Meridian and Boise meet. And then as you get on I-84, our main highway, especially during the commuting times, if in the morning you're coming from the west of Nampa, Meridian, any of this going into Boise, I-84 pretty much anywhere in Meridian and then getting into Boise in particular is gonna get pretty backed up. Now, outside of rush hour, Meridian has a lot less traffic than most of Boise, but the difference isn't extremely large to me as somebody who's been here. It isn't big enough that I would have that be the determining factor when you're kind of deciding on the area. Now, let's hop into the different housing environments in each of these cities. Overall, let's talk about affordability and kind of the comparison of the cost of housing in Boise versus Meridian. In general, they're going to be pretty similar. We're not going to see a massive spike in either of them when we're looking at a comparable home in Meridian versus in Boise. But the small difference will get you to Meridian. The same home in Meridian, when we're looking in general terms, is probably going to be priced around 10% less than it would be in the Boise area. So for example, if we're looking at a $450,000 home in Meridian, if you pick that up and put it in Boise somewhere, that home will probably cost closer to $500,000. So in the grand scheme, there is not a huge difference, but if you really don't care which city you're going to be in and you really want to look at the bottom line, your money could go just a little bit further in Meridian than Boise. Now, one of the things that makes Boise really special is they have got all sorts of different types of neighborhoods throughout the town. So if you're looking for kind of that downtown life, you want to have a condo, you want to live right off the river, that is what matters to you, Boise's going to have that, and most of the rest of the valley isn't. If you're looking for that historic kind of cottage style right outside of downtown, Boise has the north end, they've got the west end, they've got the bench, all sorts of different neighborhoods that will offer you more than just kind of that traditional suburb. If you're looking for that traditional suburb or that master plan community, Boise's still going to have a few of those options. For example, out in southeast Boise, we've got Columbia Village, one of the biggest master plan communities in our valley. And then if you want something really special and you either want to live on the river, or let's say you want to have a view home up in the foothills, Boise's going to have that in a way that Meridian just doesn't, because again, location is everything. Now, one drawback if we're looking in the Boise area in particular is that garages are very popular. They're pretty easy to find, but there are going to be little areas in certain neighborhoods where a garage is not guaranteed. Of course, downtown, you probably won't have an attached garage, but when we're looking at the bench or the north end, a lot of these older historic neighborhoods, attached garages just weren't all the rage 30, 40, 50 years ago. So every single home will be a little bit of a different setup, whether they have a detached garage in the back, no garage, just parking, whatever it is. If a garage is super important to you, know that there's going to be options in Boise. You just have to be a little bit more conscious about where you're looking. But when we talk about some of the more special garages, the RV bays, the 12, 14 foot high doors, or the boat bays, which are closer to that 10 feet, finding those in Boise is a little bit harder just because they're not as widespread. That wasn't a huge thing, again, when a lot of these neighborhoods were being built. And even as we get into Boise, the RV garages, the boat bays, they are a massive drawing factor, and there's a big demand for them amongst buyers, which just drives the price up. So even when you find these types of garages in Boise itself, the increased costs might make it so the home is a little bit out of your price range or more than you want to bite off. On the flip side, Meridian might not have the very distinct different types of neighborhoods, kind of the historic charm, but they'll have a neighborhood for almost everyone depending on what you're looking for. Meridian has a ton of really good waterfront lots with different subdivisions having kind of man-made lakes. They've got view homes out in Spurwing on the north edge, out in Sky Mesa and the Keep. They're kind of on the rim overlooking the valley. If you want to live on a golf course, Meridian has a few that you could choose from. If you want the mature neighborhood with the mature landscaping, tree-lined streets, all of that different character, Meridian's going to have some great options for you. But with the overall size and growth of Meridian, especially when we're looking on the south end, new construction out here is going to be very easy to find for most price points. On the whole, most of Meridian is going to be suburb living. A lot of the communities out here were either master plan communities or they were just that very classic suburban setting. And then when we're talking about garages, it's going to be pretty hard to find a home outside of downtown Meridian that doesn't have a garage. And then when we're talking about 3-car garages, it's very easy to find. And even some of those special bays of the RV bay or the boat bay, they're going to be pretty easy to find. It just comes down to lot size, the price, and where the neighborhood is located. Now, again, I don't like to get into specific numbers because the numbers like this change every single day. So depending on when you view this, these could be extremely out of date or they could be perfect. But when we're talking about the grand scheme of what would an entry-level home get me in Meridian? What kind of budget would I have to have? When I'm consulting clients, if they want to live in Meridian in particular, I really want them to be around that 350 to 400,000 mark. On the flip side, when we're talking about an entry-level, standalone, single-family home, you really are going to want to be closer to that $400,000 mark because there just aren't a ton of options once you get down below there. Because of this, if you're looking at pure housing costs, kind of what I said at the beginning of this section, if that is your main driver, Boise and Meridian don't have a massive difference in either of these. But at the end of the day, there are some good affordable options in both of these cities. And if you're looking for something in particular, both of them could probably find something that matches your needs. And on a quick note, when we're talking about non-housing costs, one of the things about our valley, again, is because we're still relatively small and the proximity to everything is so close, a lot of your non-housing costs are going to be very similar between Boise and Meridian. Your gas company is probably going to be the same. There's only a couple of water companies, electricity. All of these things overlap. We have the same grocery stores. We really don't see any substantial difference between the two cities when we're talking about non-housing related costs. All right, and let's divert away from housing and the money for a little bit, and let's talk about the next big criteria when we're comparing these two cities. We're going to talk about the recreation and the nature that's available to you. Starting with Boise, Boise's going to be the big city, so it's going to be a little bit more bike friendly. When compared to the other cities in our valley, Boise is just another level when we're talking about the bike friendly amenities that they've started to implement. Whether it's bike lanes on pretty much every road, they're starting to set up more bike paths. They have kind of those bike maintenance tower things that have all the tools and stuff. Being bike centric in Boise is something that you 100% could do. Now in Meridian, people do still bike quite a bit, but because of the way that the commute is set up, it's not really bike friendly yet. There haven't been a ton of initiatives. It's just something that you'll have to be a little bit more prepared. But if you're a veteran biker who you like to bike, commute, do all of that type of stuff, if you're close enough, you can make Meridian work. There's still a ton of people who absolutely love their biking, but Boise is going to win out in that one. A couple other things that Boise has that really helps it stand apart here is their foothill trail system is very tough to beat. If you want to go for a hike, you really don't have to leave Boise to go out and have any sort of hike. Whether you're taking your kids, your dog, you want to go for a run, whatever it is, there are a few really great hikes. We've got Table Rock that you can kind of hike up to. It's pretty low key, where you can actually oversee the entire downtown. We've got the Military Reserve that has some great picturesque views. Then you're gonna have Hull's Gulch and Camel's Back in North End. And then as you continue up Highway 55 towards Avamore and as you get out towards Horseshoe Bend, you're just gonna continue to have more and more hikes inside of town. And then also with the river running right through downtown, you're gonna have the Greenbelt, which again, 25 miles of a trail that runs right next to our river that you can go biking on. You can take your dogs, go for a walk, run, whatever you want to do. But this Greenbelt does go from Boise all the way out past Meridian, Eagle, Stars, so it's something that you can really take advantage of regardless. Both of these cities are gonna have a ton of different parks for you to go out and enjoy. In Boise, you're gonna of course have some bigger ones, especially closer to downtown with Ann Morrison, Catherine Albertson, Julia Davis, and then parks all through all of the different neighborhoods. As you go out to Meridian, you're gonna have Kleiner Park, you're gonna have Settlers Park. There are a ton of great options out there as well. And the same goes if you're into pickleball, because I know that is just taken off like fire. There's going to be a ton of different pickleball courts in Meridian and Boise. And the same goes for disc golf. We're starting to see those pop up everywhere as well. When we're talking about actual golf courses, Boise's going to have a few more options, but Meridian does still have a few courses, so you can actually have some variety. And again, getting from one edge of Meridian to the other edge of Boise is in close enough proximity that if you want to go out and try a new golf course, a 15-minute drive probably isn't going to make or break your decision. And then finally, when we're talking about the great outdoors, getting a little bit farther out of town, getting up into the mountains, the forest, all of that, both of these cities are going to have really good close proximity to that. Boise's going to win out here just a little bit because you're going to cut about 15 to 20 minutes off really any commute if you're heading out of town towards the northeast side. But let's go ahead and shift back to the things to do inside of each of these cities. We're going to talk about culture, entertainment, things to do. Let's get started with Boise, and it really has almost everything you could want. We're seeing more come year after year as the city continues to grow and people want to bring their business here. And then as I mentioned before, in terms of festivals, we're going to have a ton in Boise itself. itself, you're gonna have Oktoberfest, you're gonna have Tree Fort, different Christmas events, you're gonna have Pride, you're gonna have the Goat Head Fest, you're gonna have Boise Music Festival, the Hyde Park Streak Fair, Spirit of Boise, the big balloon send-off happens every single year. Boise always has something like this going on. There's also gonna be quite a few different movie theaters, you're gonna have a ton of restaurants and places to go out, both local owned restaurants, especially in downtown Boise, but you're also gonna have the opportunity out by the mall and in different parts of town. If you're really just craving one of those big chains, you're gonna have access to that. And then for a little pro local tip, if you're looking for a little bit more diverse options with your food or a certain type of cuisine, Orchard Road through Boise, this is where we find a ton of really good, authentic, diverse restaurant options. And finally, one of the things that Boise does that really separates it from the rest of the valley is the winery, tasting room, and brewery scene that it has in its city itself. You're gonna find some by the river, and then down in Garden City itself, you're gonna have a ton of different options for breweries. You can go out, have a glass of wine, have some bar food, whatever it is. That is a big scene in Boise itself. Now, Meridian on the other side, even though it is growing extremely quick, Meridian is still trying to hold on to that small town feel a little bit more than Boise is. But there is still a wide variety of things to go out and do. We just had Topgolf come last year, so now you have access to that. You're gonna have the Village at Meridian, which I have a full vlog tour of. Go ahead and check that one out. But this is gonna be a big hub for shopping, restaurants, there's a movie theater, all sorts of stuff to do. For something a little bit different, or if you're into cars, the Meridian Speedway is in downtown Meridian every single Saturday throughout the summer. They have different races. They have a great 4th of July celebration. And then downtown Meridian, even though it's growing and kind of getting revitalized, has some really good options. But as that continues to grow, that'll just give a different edge to Meridian if that's what you're looking for. Now, when we're talking about hospitals and different services like this, Boise and Meridian are located in a way, and since they're touching, they share a lot of the same hospitals and such. You're gonna have a really big hospital in Meridian just off the highway on Eagle Road, but you're also gonna have another St. Luke's down in downtown Boise. You're gonna have a St. Alphonsus right off the connector as you get into downtown Boise. There's gonna be various different urgent care facilities. We have a new actual hospital popping out kind of on the western edge of Meridian with Salzer Health. So when you're looking at healthcare wise, Boise and Meridian are gonna have some good options for you. Okay, so on the grand scheme, Boise and Meridian have a lot of similarities. These are gonna be two cities that there's a reason that a lot of people are deciding between the two of them. At the end of the day, there's only a few things that really make them different. One is going to be Boise is just a little bit more faster paced. It is the big city. Even though Meridian's growing extremely fast, it is still trying to hold on to that small town feel just a little bit more. And with it being more suburban focused, everything like that, it'll feel a little bit smaller than Boise will. But with that fast paced life, all of the energy and such, there's gonna be a lot of stuff going on downtown. So when I'm talking with clients, especially young professionals, people that wanna go out to those festivals every single weekend, get out, meet people, do the new things, living in Boise has a really strong appeal. But if you're thinking about raising a family, Meridian was just rated the #2 best suburb in Idaho to raise a family in. If you want a little bit of that slower pace, you want a little bit more quiet, but you still want the access to everything, Meridian really can shine as the best option for you. At the end of the day, I'm pretty biased and I don't think that you can make a bad decision either way. But if you're looking at this and you're starting to make that pros and cons list between cities, you're gonna start to nitpick some of these small things. The biggest thing that I can recommend for you is make a trip out, visit the areas, kind of drive around, get to experience it a little bit, because you never know kind of what's gonna be the best fit just based off of online. You want to experience it a little bit so that you can get the right feel for you. If you have any opinions on Boise, Meridian, and which one is a little bit better than the other, go ahead, drop a comment down below. I would love to hear your thoughts. And again, I'm a local agent up here in the area, so if you have any specific questions about which of these cities might be a better fit for you and your family, go ahead and reach out. I'd love to help out. So all my info is down in the description. Call, text, email, whatever is easiest for you. That's what I'm here for. But until then, I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you all on the next one.